Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Derek's Travel Chats. And today we're uh, doing a little bit different. We're going to talk with someone who works directly with clients in the industry, Mr. Robert Early from the United Kingdom, London, lives in London. And welcome, Rob, to Derek's Travel Chats.
Hi, Derek. Always good to see you. It's been a long time since we did our Freedom 100 trip to Beaumont Hamel in France a couple of years ago. But yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, it's actually 4.5 years ago now.
Yeah, it was so momentous that it feels like it was last week. It was such an incredible thing to do, and we have worked together before that because we did the Vimy 100 commemorations, and I know that there are going to be many more to come.
Well, hopefully, and as you know, we're hopefully trying to get another group together to go over to do the Trail of the Caribou for 2021 because it's the 105th anniversary of Beaumont Hamel. So, please God, we'll be able to do that. So Rob, we're in a different world with regard to travel, and I know it impacted you personally because without people traveling, but I just like our listeners to be able to hear what you have to say about travel and how it's impact your life, but two, the other part is how it's positively impact your life being involved in travel and some of the experiences that you've had.
Well, I think COVID has affected the travel industry particularly hard. My last trip was over New Year, so going into January of 2020, and that was leading into our off season. So I was expecting, 3 months at home. We usually take the opportunity to travel because, and that's basically part of my DNA. So we made our way down to Tasmania at the end of mid-February for a 3.5 week vacation. And all the time during that period of travel, we knew something was up and something big was going to happen. So we were supposed to be routing through Shanghai. That got cancelled. Then we were routing through Hong Kong. That got cancelled. And then eventually we routed through Singapore. And as you landed in Singapore, the temperature checks, they had the track and trace going already there. We got to Tasmania, and it seemed almost as if normality was, still in existence. So cruise ships were still arriving. There was a marked lack of mainland Chinese visitors because restrictions had been placed on them. And then we spent, a fantastic time in Australia, meeting friends and family and going to some new places. And then we started to make our way home. And that's when, really, I think I discussed it with you recently when we chatted. We went through Singapore and the streets were empty, which is, Singapore's a bustling Asian city. And then we went through Hong Kong Airport. Now, Hong Kong Airport, late at night, when all the flights leave for Europe and North America, was absolutely dead. Where there should have been thousands of people, there were maybe 100. And it was quite slightly unsettling. And then, of course, we arrived back in London. And I guess, we can safely say that the world changed, I think, temporarily. It's changed so suddenly at that particular point. And, we had things in the UK like they had in other countries. We had, shortages of bizarrely toilet roll, but also, in the early stages of the pandemic, you walk into a supermarket and there would be very little food. That changed dramatically. The supply chains got got zooped up, and things then returned to a new normal. So restrictions on when you can go out, restrictions on what you can do, and since then, things have improved. Certainly, the number of fatalities has gone starkly down to almost normal levels, and our freedoms, if you like, are being given back to us. But with a look always on the current situation. I'm optimistic. I'm really optimistic. I think, personally, I think the way travel and doing the things we love will come back is when there is a plausible vaccine. And I'm hopeful, because I read a lot. I read a lot of current affairs, I read a lot of stuff online, no conspiracy theorists, just, scientists. And I think, by the end of the year, we'll have a viable vaccine. And the treatments are getting better. When that comes, slowly but surely, I think there's going to be a massive, massive urge to travel when this is all over. I've not slept in this bed in this house for as long as I have this year, and I've got wanderlust, I've got itchy feet. I want to get traveling. I just really want to get traveling. And I discussed it, maybe going away for a couple of days here, there, and everywhere. But I'm following the government guidance in the UK, which is only travel overseas, and that means to the rest of Europe as well when it's absolutely necessary. So I'm going to hold tight for now. I'm calling it my gap year. When you're between school and university, you have a gap year. This is when the world is paused temporarily. And maybe when we come out of this, I'm hoping the world will be a lot better. We'll be in a lot better place. People will have learned some of the things, the better things that we learned during lockdown and the pandemic. And that was, how to be kind to your neighbours, how to be supportive of the people around you, and also ecologically, what our environment is about. And yeah, I think I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful, and I can't wait to get back exploring this great world of ours. I missed it.
Yeah, and I mean, as a little short introductory to our conversation I did last week, just sitting here on this side of the pond and looking at that horizon, I know people are longing to take that trip over that horizon and explore the rest of the globe. And so, I'm very hopeful as well, and I'm hoping that having these chats and having people express how different parts of the world are handling it, and how different companies are preparing to reopen, that we will be able to better serve our customers and clients, and provide them with that vacation of a lifetime again, and that memory that everybody dreams about and holds on to dearly. So
you can't stop people wanting to explore this world.
No,
this is just temporary, and I know that it will come back. It will come back. It might take a while, a year or two, to get back to levels that we saw in the past, but it will come back. And I think there's going to be a V-shaped recovery in travel. And as soon as I think it's safe to travel, people will be booking those tours, those trips, those vacations, those flights, and they'll be back exploring this great world of ours. And I know, from Trafalgar's point of view, they've been continuously in contact, maintaining the lines of communication with us travel directors in Europe, and not just in Europe, but throughout the world, and very upbeat about the future, about where we're going to go as a company. And, looking at, in the interim period, so, when it's safer to travel, when travel restrictions are starting to be lifted, they're looking at introducing what's called a hygiene director. So aside from your travel director, me, and our wonderful drivers, you'll have a third person on board that will ensure that all the hygiene and safety protocol on a trip is adhered to. They're even looking at things like people traveling in family bubbles. So, lots of people have extended families, and within that extended family, they can travel. I'm the representative for my region, which is Central Europe, Alpine and Bohemia, it's called. And I'm constantly in touch with our product team about where we're going to be moving forward to in late 2020 and indeed for 2021. So it's hopeful.
It's hopeful. And I'll be honest, Rob, I mean, after having met you back in 2016 and gotten to know you, and other travel directors, both with Trafalgar and other companies that I've dealt with. I mean, for me, I think what makes this vacation and trip is people like yourself. And that's why I wanted to have you, and I'll be having others on in the coming weeks, because it's your experience, it's your front line, bringing people back. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, is all about Rob Early today, and how important you are to the travel industry as a travel director. And I know, because I know you're very well known over the 10 years that you've been as a travel director with Trafalgar. And I'm sure you get many, many people writing you and contacting you. And hopefully some of those people will get to see you today and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we all have, well, you know, all travel directors have their social media profiles. So if you're on Instagram, it's travel underscore with underscore Rob. And, you know, even throughout the, throughout this crisis, if you like, I've been posting stuff from home, stuff from previous trips. And, you know, with the followers that I have, and it's the same for all of my colleagues because we see each other's posts, the response from guests is like, you know, we can't wait to get back traveling. You know, we're going to be there in next year in 2021. We're going to be there in 2022. We just want the green light. We want to know that it's safe, and when it is, we'll be back. And I think, you know, that's indicative. You know, that have, whenever I post, it's, you know, the other day I posted from London, from the river just nearby Thames, and it was a sunset picture, and I said, you know, when you're back in London, make sure you come off the beaten track a bit and come this way. And, you know, people were saying, you know, I love London. I'm going to be back, you know, as soon as I can. And that's one of my favorite cities. And, you know, if I post from pictures from Budapest or from Prague or from Berlin, it elicits the same responses. People just want to get back traveling, Derek, you know.
Yeah.
I know I do. I'm itching. I can't wait. It's just driving me. It's almost driving me insane, but it's not. I'm just waiting, biding my time.
So, with all your experience in that and all of the different countries, I mean, one of the key things is being able to talk the language of the country that you're going into. So how many languages do you speak, Rob?
I mean, you know, I speak French and German. Those are languages that I studied at uni. I speak a bit of Japanese because in a previous life, I worked for Japan Airlines and spent a long time in Japan, and some of that still is with me. And I speak, you know, I can get by in probably 10 other languages. So, you know, the basics of everyday language, you know, good morning, hello, goodbye, how to get to places, just general standard vocabulary. So, you know, I go through I can go on, you know, on one day, I can pass through 4 countries where there are 4 different languages being spoken. So in my region. So it's important, you know, the most important words I always say to my guests, you know, you might not speak Czech, you might not speak Slovakian or Hungarian, but the 2 most important words are please and thank you. And there's like, oh, and also a little phrase, how to order a beer. That usually works. Order a beer, say please, say thank you, and you'll be right.
So can you tell us, you know, some of the unique itineraries that you have been able to deliver on behalf of Trafalgar, and some of the unique countries that you've visited?
I think the unique, you know, amongst the most unique are the trips that we worked in conjunction with people like yourself, because they're tailor-made. And, you know, if they're for a special commemoration, or, you know, if your trip is what they call a custom trip, so it might be a family that, you know, says they want to just travel with their family or their friends, and they want to go here, they want to go there, they want to go everywhere else. Those are perhaps ones that last in your memory because they're quite unique. Because they're tailor-made, and that's what your company does. So, for example, when we work together, you know, for those of you, you know, all of your followers and listeners now will know about Vimy, will know about Beaumont Hamel, but people from outside Canada and maybe outside the UK might not know about these very, very important places in the Canadian psyche. You know, battlefields from the First World War, and so for when I travelled with the Vimy trip, for example, I was mentioning to you, we had a guy, a guest on board called John Costigan, and I still remember him very well. And we were, you know, that when we do these commemorations, it's like a military exercise in and of itself. So you have to meet at an allotted time, at an allotted place. If you don't get to that place on time, you don't get entrance. So you have to leave from wherever you're leaving. So we were leaving from Paris that morning, which is a good 2.5, 3 hour journey from Vimy. And we had to be there more or less at first light. John had a great grandfather that died at Vimy. and he was buried in a very, very small Commonwealth War grave site, probably about 4 or 5 kilometres from Vimy itself. Not easy to get to because we're travelling in a coach, so you have to be careful of the roads that you go down. Some of them are just tracks. So working together, and Google Earth, it's a wonderful tool. If you don't use it, use it. We realised that this was, this was plausible. We could do it, and I really wanted to do it because it was so special for him. And I got the rest of the group involved, and I said, guys, this is what John, and we'd already established a rapport by then. All the people who come on your trips from the particular part of Canada that you're from, Derek, Newfoundland, they bear a bit of an affinity with me because they're mostly of Irish descent. You guys are mostly of Irish descent. My parents are both Irish. Some of the people I've met from your customer group speak just like my grandfather, which is weird, but warming. And I've, there's something between, I don't know. I always had a connection with Newfoundlanders. Maybe it's a historical thing. It's a biological thing. I don't know what it is, but we'd established a rapport quite early on. And there were a great bunch of people. So, I rallied them all around. I said, look, we're going to get, if John wants to go and see the grave of his great uncle, you're going to have to get up at 3:30 in the morning. I'm not sure, maybe I can get the hotel maybe to do a breakfast box for you, but the hotel was quite a small hotel. The hotel did agree, and they all agreed to leave at 3:30 in the morning, and we all went to the grave, and we played the last post. I managed to get some amplifiers from my phone, and it was at dawn. It was incredible. It was just amazing. And that's aside from what I regularly do, which is taking groups of guests through Central Europe and wonderful places like Switzerland and Hungary and Czech Republic and Germany and Austria. But that occasions like that will always stay with you. And John and I were not such in massive contact. We were for a good year afterwards, but we exchanged the odd post on Facebook or Instagram, which is really nice and really nice. I might, if I can try to share, I can share with you a picture maybe.
Okay.
Let's see if I can do this. We tried this earlier on. Let's see. So this is 1 second. So that's John and I by his great grandfather's grave.
White screen, Robert.
Okay, let's see. Did you get it?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Let's try it. No, we'll go back. We had to, it's not always easy to share the screen on Zoom. It's easier on Teams, but we'll leave that one. But you get the idea. It was absolutely incredible. It was wonderful. I mean, I've had on other trips. A year or 2 years ago, taking a group up to Christmas trip. So it's around Christmas. So Christmas markets of Central Europe, which are amazing. Germany and Austria. So where Christmas was born, really. The Christmas trees, the markets, the smells, the glühwein, the roasted chestnuts, just so atmospheric. But a lot of people come on those trips from Asia, so from Singapore, English-speaking Asia, so Singapore, Malaysia. So we had a group, a large group of Singaporeans within our group, and one of the young guys who was with his girlfriend said, I want you to organise something for me. Can you do it? I was like, of course, I can. Well, within reason, but yeah, I'll do my best. So he wanted to propose to his girlfriend on the top of Mount Rigi. So Rigi's a mountain just outside of Lucerne. But he wanted, flowers. He wanted champagne. And I said, well, okay. He said, but I can't. Obviously, it has to be kept secret. So again, what the wonderful thing about group travel is the friends you meet, the people you get to know. You make lifelong friends. So just as an example, when I was in Australia this year, I mentioned. So even with me and my guests, I met 2 of my former guests on my trip because they lived in the same cities. We met for lunch. And it was really, really nice. But with this, in this particular instance. We were sort of day 7 of the trip, so relationships had been formed, friendships had been made. So I just said to others in the group, okay, this is what's happening. This is what I want you to do. Can you do it for me? So you carry 1 bottle of champagne, you carry 2 bottles, so 6 bottles we had, 3, 4, 5, you carry the glasses. So the only problem now is the flowers. How do we do this? So one of the ladies in the group said, she said, I've got a really oversized overcoat, like a big cagoule. And she said, I could easily, she said, there might be slightly pricey, but I won't get a massive bunch, I'll get a smaller bunch. So she did the flowers. I had my 6 Santa's little helpers with the champagne and the glasses. And then he proposed on top of Mount Vimy. And then it was wonderful, really amazing experience. She started crying, he started crying, most of the group started crying. And then a year later, I got an invitation to their wedding in Singapore. And I couldn't go because I was working. But those are nice things that happen. And friendships are formed. Friendship, I've still, and a load of my colleagues, all of my colleagues will tell you that, on the trips that we have, with up to 40 people, you're going to make friends, and you're going to make friends for life. And people I've taken on trips are still in contact with each other and meet up.
Rob, what are some of the unique spots that when you're taking on a Trafalgar itinerary through Central Europe, where you're basically do a lot of your tours?
Yeah.
What are some of the key things that you want?
We're lucky in our region because practically every city we go to sells itself. So it's from the picture postcard school of European cities. So you've got Prague, the city of 100 spires. You've got Budapest, with this amazing parliament and its backdrop of the castle. You have cities with history like Berlin. We go to wonderful places in Croatia. So they are unique in and of themselves. And you always get that moment when you take them to the viewpoint at the Gellert Hill in Budapest and they look over the city. When you take them from the viewpoint by the Strahov Monastery in Prague, where they get this great vista of the city, it's always a wow moment. But what's unique about Trafalgar is that, yes, we do cities and we do them very well with our wonderful, wonderful local specialists. So these local specialists are our people on the ground, so they're local to the area and they bring an insight into a city. That usually it basically adds to what us travel directors have done as an introduction before we get there, and they're incredible. But we have these unique, very unique. We have a unique proposition in that on every Trafalgar trip there's a Be My Guest experience. So, just as an example, in my region, we take our guests to a winery just outside of Budapest. Okay. To Conrad, who's the owner there. He's been with his family. He's got a wonderful backstory as well about his family helping a Jewish family during the Second World War. We take in Germany, on our best of Germany, we take you to a castle overlooking the Rhine, where you have lunch with a massive view of the Rhine Gorge. In Austria, we take you to a very unique convent of self-sufficient nuns. And these things give back to the community because we're all about sustainable tourism. So we don't just go to a place and leave. We go to a place, we support local industries, local businesses, local ventures, and we make them sustainable. And these are very unique. And I know that other companies have tried to imitate, and sometimes people say imitation is the best form of flattery, but they haven't quite got what Trafalgar's got, because we were in there before anyone else, and we've established really, really good relationships with our suppliers. So if you come on the Trafalgar trip, that is itineraried, that is brochured, there will always be a Be My Guest experience, and it's often the highlight of the trip. So, in France, you go to chateaus. In Italy, you go to limoncello groves or vineyards. In Ireland, you go to castles, and same in England as well, or in Scotland. Incredible. And they're all usually family-run businesses with a backstory.
And some people talk about, going on motor coach or guided vacations, and some of the concern that some people bring up is that it's a little too stringent, or you got to be up so early in the morning. What are some of the things that you do as a travel director to provide some of your participants with a little bit more free time and to actually take a deep breath and enjoy where they're to?
We always have, especially in my region, Central Europe, but also in other regions too, there is always downtime on a Trafalgar trip. There is always time for additional sightseeing. There's always time to have that moment. I always say to my guests, I used to work a lot in France, but also, it's the same throughout Europe. I would say, when you've got your free time, you will visit a landmark cathedral, you'll visit a museum, you'll visit a castle, you'll visit a church as part of your itinerary. So when you're in Europe, this is what you've got to do in your leisure time. Don't necessarily run to find that exhibition at that art gallery, because the running and the getting there and the lining up and the queuing, because you're not with me. We when you come with me, you get fast-tracked entrance to everywhere. When you're on your own, it takes a whole lot longer because you have to line up with everybody else. Yeah. So I say, take that moment and do what we Europeans do. We sit in a pavement cafe, in a pavement bar, we order our drink and we watch the world go by. And sometimes those moments can be, perhaps more remembered than that mad dash to that exhibition that was on at that museum you so wanted to see. But if you want to do that as well, that's obviously fantastic too. But yeah, definitely have free times. And do we have early mornings? It depends on the itinerary. We have an at leisure or at leisure brand, which is later start. So for example, in my region, we have the Prague, Vienna, and Budapest trip, which starts in Prague. You have 3 nights in Prague, 3 nights in Vienna, and 3 nights in Budapest. And it's very leisurely, with a lot of free time. On other trips, there are early mornings, because if you want to get to certain places to see certain things and get the most out of that trip, occasionally you do have to get up early. But it's how you present it. You say that if we get up this early, like with John, with his visit to see his great uncle before Vimy, if you give our guests a reason for, on one occasion they might have to leave at, say, 7:30 or 8 o'clock, you tell them why. And 99.9999999% everybody's in agreement. But no, we're not. It's not. With all my colleagues at Trafalgar and all of our brands within the travel corporation, our guests are seen as guests, as individuals. We try to meet individual needs on an individual basis. But I think part of the reason, not exclusively the reason, a lot of people come on what we call a group holiday or a group vacation. It's because they want to meet other people. And, with Trafalgar, the wonderful thing is, they don't just come from the United States or from Canada or from Australia or New Zealand, but we have guests from South Africa, from Singapore, from Malaysia, from Hong Kong, from other parts of the English-speaking world. And so it's a great educator, as well, because people get to know people from countries that they probably or may not have knew existed. I've had people from Malawi, so people say, "Where's Malawi?" And so a friendship starts. A friendship starts.
Kind of from an organizational standpoint for you, what are some of the things that you as a travel director do prior to coming on, a guest coming on board? How do they know you beforehand?
It's usually it's a good week of preparation, not necessarily full time, but 2 hours here, 4 hours there, 5 hours there. So we have an app that we use amongst the travel, or some brands in the travel corporation. So Costa, Trafalgar, Insight, Contiki, and we get all our guest information on there. So what they like, what they want to see, what are their interests, and we can try and tailor some of the things we do to suit those needs. So if somebody's interested in wine, you'll know a winery somewhere along the way. In Vienna, it's one of the only city in Europe that has a vineyard within the city itself. So you could suggest, did you know there was a vineyard? Just you take the number 3 tram. It's 10 minutes. You give that suggestion. Somebody's interested in art. Now you're in a city like Vienna. Where do you start? But you can tailor make, those things to the individual. We get to know where people are from, so I always try to make sure everyone's included. So we can have 17, well, not so many. Well, yeah, I've had 17 countries represented. So when I'm doing my introduction on the first day, they say, guys, who's from Indonesia? The hands go up. Who's from the United States? The hands go up. And that's a good way of, I remember on every trip where guests on my trip come from, so that they feel included. There's also the ages you've got before you. So when we have the seat rotation, you're looking at where you want to put different age groups. I don't tend to sit all young people together and more older people in another place. I mix them all up. And if that dynamic works, it works. If it doesn't work, then you can change it around. So, you have to think about things like this. There's all the dietary requirements. There's sometimes, any details on medical issues are forwarded to us. So, for example, somebody might have a CPAP machine, which of course is in the news now because they're using CPAP machines to treat people with COVID. So everybody knows what a CPAP machine is now. So you know that they need deionized water and where to get it. So things like that. It's about knowing you know your guests often before you meet them.
You mentioned something there, just because it's always very unique to me, and it was one of my first trips and understanding it and the purpose of it, and so many people have raised it, is actually the whole seat rotation on a coach, and how important that is to keep continuity within people, because not everyone wants to sit in the back of the
right. I mean, it just gives everybody a fair share of the weight. Also, it moves people around so that they'll be sitting. If you think about logistically, the people sitting behind them and in front of them will be the same throughout the trip, but the people to their side will always be different. So you're making people interact more. If they want to. Some people don't want to interact to the same level as others, but it's a good chance for people to get to know each other. And now if you come on a Trafalgar trip, it's not. I'm not standing at the front of the coach, giving people dates and bombarding them with historical facts and information. Our guests are on vacation. You actually give the background, you give the history. You tailor your commentary to the interests of the people that you have. But we have fun. We have wine tasting, schnapps tasting on board. We have a sing along. I show I've got thousands of clips from YouTube or from other social media sources, and they're fun clips about the places that we go to. It's interaction. I move through the coach. I'm chatting with people. There's always snacks being handed out, little local treats that we get. It's what I call the fun bus. It's all about fun. If people don't come on holiday to have fun, then perhaps they shouldn't be on holiday at all. And most 99.9999.
It's funny you said that, because as you know, I mean, you were one of 4 coaches that we had in 2016, and so I traveled on extended vacation afterwards with 3 couples that were on the coach with you, and they all described it as the fun bus.
Okay. I mean, that's what it's got to be about. I'm sitting here now. It's one of the things I miss. I really do. I love. It's a dichotomy with doing the job that we do, because you've got a family here, and it's always hard to say goodbye for 3 weeks or 2 weeks. But once you're at the airport and you're on the plane, you're in work mode. And when I'm in work mode, I love it. I absolutely adore it. And I temporarily miss it, but it's gonna come back.
Just the last question now, because I know you have dinner, because it's
socially distanced
dinner. I think there's it's 7 o'clock, almost 7 o'clock in London.
Just after 7. Yeah.
But just the last question is, who is probably the most famous person to travel that to travel on your coach? Anyone?
Most famous. So that's a tricky one. Let me think. I mean, if I'm honest with you, Derek, most of our guests, they come from all walks of life. So, you can have a farmer or a bus driver from Australia. I remember having a very eminent retired surgeon who performed one of the first heart transplants in the United States. And that's, I haven't had Angelina Jolie yet. And Brad Pitt, he hasn't been on one of my coaches yet. But you never know. You never know. But we've had, high prominent, we had a Malaysian Datuk, which is like a member of royalty. But, if you're outside of Malaysia, you probably wouldn't know who he was. But everybody is like royal on my coach. Everybody.
Excellent. Well, Robert, thank you very much for joining us today on Derek's Travel Chats. It's been wonderful to see you again and chat with you. And please God that we will be able to continue to work together sometime in the near future. And,
I'll make a wager with you, Derek. We'll be traveling this time next year.
Excellent. And hopefully if we're able to attract enough people to go to Beaumont Hamel, we'll have you as one of our travel directors again.
Delighted to do it.
So thank you very much and for being part of this again, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And
I just want to say a big hello to all my Newfoundlanders.
Yes, because there's, I think you have about almost 40 on your coach.
Yeah, that's right.
Almost pretty well a full coach. Yeah,
it was.
But
okay, Derek, take care.
All right, take care. Have a fine time.
Bye now.
All right, then. Bye.